All right, now let's talk about protecting our routes. To do that, we're going to use middleware. With middleware, we can run code before a request is completed. So we can create a middleware function that gets executed on every request. In that function, we can check the user session, and if the user is trying to access a private part of our website without having a session, then we can redirect them to the login page. Let me show you how we can do this. So here in the root of our project, outside of the app folder, we add a new file called middleware.ts. Make sure to spell it properly, because this is one of the conventions that Next.js looks for. In this function, we export a function called middleware. Again, make sure to spell it properly. This function should take a request of type next request. Now, as I said, this function gets executed on every request. So here we have a chance to check the user session and redirect them to the login page. But we're not going to implement that logic here because it's already implemented in Next.auth. I just want to show you how middleware in Next.js works. So for this demo, let's return a next response and redirect the user to, here we pass a new URL. As the first argument, we pass /new page. Of course, we don't have this. This is just for a demo. And as the second argument, we pass the base URL of our website, which is in this case, localhost. And in production, it's going to be something else. We can get it from request.url. Okay. Now, if we go back to the home page and refresh, we get redirected to this new page. Okay. Now, most of the time, we don't want the middleware function to be executed on every request. We want it to be executed on certain paths. So to control that, here we export a constant called config. Again, this is one of the things that Next.js looks for. We set this to an object, and here we set the matcher property to a string which represents a path or an array of strings for passing multiple paths. For example, if we pass /users here, our middleware function will only get executed if we hit this endpoint. Take a look. So let's go to the home page. We see the home page, but if you go to the users page, we get redirected, okay? Now, here we can pass parameters. For example, we can add the ID parameter, and optionally, we can modify the parameter using one of the 3 characters. So if we add a star after our parameter like this, that means we're going to have 0 or more parameters. So now this middleware function gets executed if we go to /users, or if we go to /users/1. So 0 or more parameters, okay? Now, if we use a plus sign, that means 1 or more parameters. And if we use a question mark, that means 0 or 1, okay? So this is the idea of middleware functions. Now, in Next.auth, we have a middleware function that checks the user session, and if the user tries to access any of the paths we specify here, it automatically redirects them to the login page. So here we import middleware from next-auth/middleware, okay? Now we have a compilation error because we already have a function by this name, so we don't need this anymore. All right, here's our middleware function. We can export it from this module like this. Now, if we go to /users, we get redirected to the login page, okay? Now, there is a shorter way to write this code. Instead of importing this middleware function and then exporting it, we can export it in one go. So here we change import to export. And instead of middleware, we add curly braces with the default keyword. With this syntax, we are exporting the default object that is imported from this module, okay? Now let's remove the first import statement as well. So this is how we can protect our routes. In a single place, we can see all the routes that are protected. In this case, we don't need to apply this to the user's endpoint. In a real application, we typically have a path like dashboard. And after that, we can add 0 or more parameters to secure all the routes that start with /dashboard. Just remember that whatever you pass here should always start with a /. Now back to the browser. If you get an internal server error, just restart the web server. Sometimes this happens. I don't know what exactly is causing it. Let's refresh. All right, we can see the home page, but if we go to /dashboard, we get redirected to the login page. Beautiful.